Sound check, sound check. Can everybody hear me these days? Hear me in the back? Hear me in the front? Excellent, excellent. My name is Barrett Joyner, and I'm on the board of Hope, North Carolina, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the 4th Annual Inclusive Housing Summit. Now, before we get started, a couple of things I want to say. First, how many of you all have been to the other 3 summits? How many of you all are looking at me going, why in the hell isn't that Laura instead of Barrett? Exactly. Now, we got here this morning. We just got an update. Laura, unfortunately, fell and cut her finger out in the parking lot, and they have taken her to the hospital, and she's going to be okay. But it was we were sort of shaken when it happened, and so several of us got together and said, okay, we're going to try to cover a little bit of the morning session without Laura here. And you all will notice one thing about Hope and about Laura is the fact that there are going to be about 7 or 8 of us that are going to be doing what Laura would have done, because it takes about 7 or 8 people just to cover all the stuff that Laura does. So I'd like to first thank you all for being here, and several of the people that are going to be behind me have asked, be very kind, because 5 minutes ago they did not know that they were going to be speaking. Okay, so I'm going to let Colin come up and talk a little bit about our sponsors, and we apologize that we don't cover everything as well as Laura would have.
Thanks, Barrett. Good morning, everybody. My name's Colin Mellor. I'm the chairman of the board of Hope, North Carolina, and like Barrett and everybody else, we're stoked to have you here today for our 4th Housing Summit. The summit started off, when we first started off 4 years ago, we didn't know what to expect or what was going to happen, and we had almost 150 attendees, I think, at the first summit, and it's just grown from there. So we're really pleased to have everybody here today, and glad that you're joining us. So I will get thanks to sponsors in just a second, but I'm going to go through some logistics first. Let's see, and again, apologies for reading everything out to make sure that I go through all Laura's notes. A big thing for today, volunteers have the purple tag, so we supposedly know what we're supposed to be doing. We'll be scrambling, but we'll find answers. So if there's anything that you need to know, look for somebody with a purple tag, a purple ribbon on their badge, and we can help you out. Breakout sessions today. There's 4 breakout sessions in the morning and in the afternoon. They're the same sessions, so format is friendly today. If you don't get to what you wanted to see in the morning, you can see it in the afternoon. Or if the session's crowded in the morning, it'll be on again in the afternoon, so you'll be able to get to what you need. Information on those sessions and the speakers is, of course, on the old-style piece of paper in your swag bag. But there's also information on the sessions and the breakout sessions and the speakers and topics on the website. Bathrooms outside in the atrium area and also back in the breakout rooms or adjacent to the breakout rooms. What else do we need to know? Oh, we've got a special guest today. We're hoping that Lieutenant Governor Rachel Hunt will be joining us this afternoon. So if there's any panel moderators in here this morning, please make sure that your session is over promptly at 12:15 and get to the Trillium, it's not the cafeteria, the Trillium Ballroom, we'll call it, promptly by 12:20 in the hope that Lieutenant Governor Hunt will be here. That's still 50-50 at the moment. Governor Stein was calling a special session today that may or may not happen, and so the Lieutenant Governor's attendance is dependent on whether or not that session happens or not. So fingers crossed, but if everybody could be over in the Trillium Ballroom promptly at 12:20, that'd be great. Let's see, what else do I need to cover? I think that's about it. Barrett, I'm going to throw it back to you. Oh, excuse me. No. Thank you to the sponsors. So, do you see, we need Laura badly. I will not read through all the sponsors. All the sponsors' names are up here. Specifically, though, our platinum sponsors, Alliance Health and Duke Health. This doesn't happen without sponsorships. We're extremely grateful for all the names and the partners listed up on the screen here. So if you see anybody today with any of these decals on their badges, please say thank you to them, because this doesn't happen without the generous participation of the sponsors. So thanks to everybody.
Before I get into some specifics, I think you will probably notice this today. If it's sort of a high concept fact, Colin will be telling you about it. If it's more of a specific, detailed fact, we have several folks here that will get into it. And if it's complete BS, I will be taking it on. You can probably notice that already. Our mission is a simple one that is hard to implement, but it's designed to build inclusive. In fact, Hope, North Carolina is dedicated to providing additional options for the IDD world as a place to live and a place to grow. And our mission at Hope is to, as it says, create inclusive communities where people of all abilities, which is incredibly important as we looked at what we wanted to do with communities, is not just have one specific type of person in that community, but a wealth of people in that community that can build together, work together, and live together. And we're excited about that at Hope. Interesting, when I first started on the board, it was during the pandemic. And I saw that basically a startup nonprofit was trying to get traction during the pandemic. And I was thinking, there's no way of all volunteer nonprofit could get any traction there until I met the three founders. Dottie and Aura, unfortunately, are not here today, but Jenny is. Jenny, where are you? Stand up. One of the nice things about getting on a board when you're 72 years old, which I am, which I was then, is I never thought I'd make long-lasting, lifetime friends at the age of 72, but I have. And what is amazing is how much work those three individuals did, and as they talked to everybody, when I got involved and I'd ask somebody, oh, have you talked to so-and-so? The answer was always yes. It was like 3 years ago, we talked to them. 2 years ago, we talked to them. And Laura, who unfortunately, as I said, is not here today, when she's getting stitched up, Laura started as a volunteer with the three founders. And so the four of them have just done an incredible amount of work, as well as the original board members. So in that context, what is inclusive housing? I think the most important aspect of inclusive housing is that it's not tribal. One of the things that in America, unfortunately, we're moving into our own tribes. And that's not the way that historically people have lived in America. Our tribes have been universal. And that's one of the things that really brought me to the table here, because for the first time, I heard people talking about, let's get diversity into our communities. Let's think of new ways to interact and provide communities and provide a sense of belonging for everyone. And that's what inclusive housing is, as far as I'm concerned. I am now going to turn it over to Karen to talk a little bit about our community facilitators, which Karen has been a few months with us. Karen,
Thank
give them
you.
facts.
Okay. Hello, my name is Karen Oldoni, and I am a community facilitator at one of the two projects that Hope currently has. There's one at North Street in Durham, and I am the community facilitator for the Raleigh community at Grosvenor Gardens on Hillsborough Street. When I presented, well, I'll do this slide first. Well, Colin, who is the community facilitator at Durham, and I have completely different communities. We both work toward the same goals. Our roles are to engage, identify, and connect, and we develop opportunities for all of the neighbors, regardless of age or ability, to be together and to develop friendships. We also identify ways to assist residents based on need and help them to connect with the resources that might be helpful to them. We do this in a formal way, and we also do it informally as we meet and spend time with them throughout the week. And then we create ways for neighbors to spend time together to develop natural supports so that the people that they're spending time with become really part of their lives in a natural way. So when I presented last year about Grosvenor Gardens, I had only been with Hope for about 2 months, and now it's about a year and a half later, and things have changed a little bit at Grosvenor Gardens. Last year, these are our three properties. Colin will speak to you a little bit later about North Street. I'll share a little bit with you about Grosvenor Gardens in Raleigh, and we are currently working to develop a third community in Chapel Hill, partnering with Habitat for Humanity, and you will get a little bit more information about that community a little bit later. So when I presented last year, the Grosvenor Gardens property was brand new to us. We had just 2 residents at the building. The building comprises 60 studio-style apartment units with the goal, we have the goal of having 10 IDD residents connected with Hope at the building. So today we have 8 Hope residents at the building, and they are happily calling Grosvenor Gardens home. Their lives are vibrant and full. Some of the residents have jobs, others are training to, they work at places like 321 Coffee and Harris Teeter. Some of them can ride their bikes to work, others walk. We have residents who are training to learn roles to be volunteers, and our 8 residents often spend time together with each other as friends. With me, as their community facilitator, we make plans to spend time with each other as a group at least once a week, And we do things like going to the IMAX theater, or we play board games, or we enjoy local restaurants and coffee shops. Sometimes we even do errands together. We walk a lot because we are in an ideal location. We're right downtown in Raleigh, but we also try to ride the bus whenever we can. This helps us learn that our neighborhood can be bigger than what we see, and it helps us expand our community, and it also builds our public transportation skills. So we have lots of fun with that. Up here, you can see some of the things that we've done recently at Grosvenor Gardens. We have a great relationship with the St. Mary's School across the street. They're just friends, and they invite us to various events and activities that they have going on at their school. The first slide, we were invited to their food truck rodeo, which is one of the highlights of their year. And we enjoyed lots of fun, food, exotic animals, rock climbing walls, and had a blast with the student volunteers. In the middle, we have done some volunteer work together. Both the Grosvenor Gardens Hope residents and the general residents, we call them market rate tenants, but they are just the tenants who come into the building on their own. And they've volunteered with us at a local soup kitchen. And the last slide over on the right is just two of our newer residents enjoying a craft making activity at an organization called L'Arche, which many of you know, and they're within walking distance to our building, so we get to spend some quality time with the folks at L'Arche. In addition to doing weekly events just with our Hope residents, we also do monthly events with our other neighbors, and they've been very enthusiastic and consistent in their support. They join us for things like tours of historical buildings, historical parks, historical neighborhoods. They've played bingo with us. They've done some volunteering with us. They've joined us at pizza parties. So the Hope residents are not only spending time with each other, but they're spending time with their other neighbors as well. This year, we've also been trying to add new programming to support the residents that will be helpful and relevant to them. And to that end, we've brought in a mobile food pantry delivery for all residents, and we are doing, Lauren is doing a healthy habits workshop once a month on various topics that is helpful to really anyone who's living independently. So we try to keep it fresh and new, but also relevant and meaningful for all of the residents. And we have 8 current residents with 2 apartments available still for Hope. So if you know of anyone who would be interested, please let us know. Our next slides are just from a couple of our newer residents. This is Aaron, who moved in 2 months ago. When talking about Grosvenor Gardens, he says that my friends and I go out to fun events, and I'm part of the community. I'm discovering my personality and my talents. I'm more confident and hopeful about my future, and I'm setting goals because I've been provided a chance for a better future. Aaron had lived in a couple of different places before coming to Grosvenor Gardens. He lived in Colorado, he lived in Florida, and this place, he says, is feeling like home. Another Aaron is, I think he's our newest resident, has never lived on his own before, but he said he wanted a different life. I wanted to be on my own, walk to work in fun places, and make new friends. There's a lot of places I can walk to, people I can talk to, and my job is just down the street. I'm excited about my new life here, and I feel proud to be living on my own. So with each new resident, we bring a little bit more joy into Grosvenor Gardens. They're all enthusiastic, eager to make friends, connect with their community, and really make this place their lifelong home. So it's a really nice place to be. So are we going to go on to Weaver? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. How many people here have worked for or be on a board with a nonprofit? Almost everybody. And so you all know one of the most important things and one of the most important problems that you have with a nonprofit is mission creep. And so one of the things that we have tried to do at Hope is to partner with every person, every organization that we could. And Weaver's Grove is an example of that. We are just getting started with basically our third community, and we have partnered with the Orange County Habitat as a key partner in this. And virtually everything we do as we move into inclusive housing is with a partner. And so as you go forward, think in terms of how we can work together to make life better for the folks in the world of IDD. We're going to move.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you need a second mic? Hello? Hello? Oh, nice. Okay. And it didn't even do the like loud buzzing thing that it does when there are two microphones on. That's great. Hi. Good to see you all. I see some faces that I recognize and some new faces, which is always a joy. I'm glad that all of you are here. My name is Colin Flake, and I am the Hope and See community facilitator in the North Street neighborhood in Durham. North Street began in 2012 when a group of family and friends, many of whom met through Reality Ministries, decided to move into the same block and commit to intentional friendship and neighborliness towards adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Today, 13 years later, about 100 people live in North Street, about 30 of whom would identify as having an intellectual or developmental disability. If you live in North Street or have a loved one who lives in North Street, would you mind just raising your hand briefly if you don't mind outing yourself? These are people who you want to meet today, if they're available, and whose brains it would be valuable to pick and learn from. So I've been connected to North Street for about 4 years now. I lived there for several years as a neighbor and a friend. And when North Street began partnering with Hope NC 2 years ago, I became the first community facilitator there. And as was pointed out earlier by Karen, my work as a community facilitator tends to group into 3 areas. Identifying one-on-one barriers to community and helping address them, collaborating to problem solve. 2, creating spaces for group connection in the neighborhood. And then 3, building bridges from our community to the wider Durham community in various ways. And so one initiative that I want to highlight from this past year, briefly, that I think touches on all 3 of those, is our collaboration with Spring Forest, which is a farm and an intentional living community in Hillsborough. So in the spring, I noticed that some residents had told me they were facing intermittent food shortages for various reasons. Others said that they wanted to eat healthier but didn't know how. and some others said that they wanted to grow in some basic cooking skills. So with all that in mind, I reached out to Spring Forest to ask about joining their community-supported agriculture program to at least get some more healthy vegetables available in North Street because we're not walking distance from any grocery stores. So they asked me to come and chat, and it turned out that they were already beginning some cooking classes for refugees through World Relief just down the street from North Street. And so they agreed to come and do the same at our community pavilion. And so this summer and fall, every week, we would have this professional chef who's in the right picture in the center, Chef Netta, and then Chef Shema as well, from World Relief would come and teach us, bring these fresh vegetables from Spring Forest Farm, teach us how to cut them up and cook them and make delicious recipes from them. And then the folks who came and some folks who asked who didn't come would be able to leave with delicious and fresh vegetables. So physical needs were met, skills were developed for living independently, and most importantly, community was deepened from the ground up. And that, I think, is the kind of space that having a community facilitator has been helpful for in supplementing the ongoing life of our neighborhood. See if this is the right button I'm pressing for the slides. Yes, great. So at the beginning of my time, and then a year in, we did these surveys, sort of checking in on various wellness indicators in the life of the neighborhood. And out of the 100 people that live in North Street, around 40, I think, plus or minus one or two, filled out the survey at the beginning and the end. And in these various areas, it's indicated that having a community facilitator is helping. Helping people feel more connected, especially residents with disabilities, and helping people feel like they fully belong in our community. So that is great to see that play out in my own experience and then play out quantitatively in the data. Yeah, and so my role is really to come alongside this community that is beautiful and good and to help it become more beautiful and good and to create more space for the folks who live there to be connected to one another and to resources that help them live flourishing lives and to ensure that their gifts are received in the community and that their voices are heard. And to that end, I would love to introduce my dear friend Savaya, who has lived in North Street for quite a while, and who is a delightful human, a very talented singer and musician. Her band, the Meek Squad, you can find on Spotify, and you should definitely listen to their music on your drive home. Maybe buy a t-shirt and some merch. And she is a gifted activist and speaker as well, and one of the strongest and most thoughtful people that I know. So I'm glad that we get to hear a little bit of wisdom from her this morning. So I would love to pass the mic over to you, Savaya. If you wouldn't mind just saying a little bit about living in North Street, what it's like, and how having a community facilitator has affected your life at North Street.
First of all, thank you for saying all those good things. Living in North Street for me has been a great 9 years. Can you believe it's been 9 years? 9 years is crazy. Because I didn't come from a hometown that had a community like North Street community. And you know all of your neighbors and your friends with every single one of them, where you can invite them to come sit on your porch. We can go dancing, have a potluck, all the great things. And having Colin as the community facilitator has been great, because when COVID hit, it was hard to be able to hang out with your friends. And then when Colin came along, he was finding things for us to be able to get together and still be able to be together as a community. So having Colin as our community facilitator, sorry, that's a tongue twister, has been great for us because, like I said, COVID changed a lot of things, and we didn't see each other as much as we used to before COVID. So when Colin came along, he brought us back together as a community because it was really hard in the beginning.
Thanks, Vi. The theme of the Inclusive Housing Summit today is advocating for change. You have been doing that quite a bit this year and throughout your life, actually. So I would love to hear a little bit from you about how you got involved in advocacy work, what you've been up to this year, and what keeps you going in doing that amidst challenges.
How I started advocacy work was many years ago, when I, went away to like a six-month training program to study childcare. And in that program, I was told that childcare wasn't for me because I was disabled. And so instead of me backing out of that program or that specific class, I continued to prove to my instructor that I could do the things that she thought that I couldn't. And, encouraging other people like myself who felt that they couldn't do anything or they were told that they wouldn't be able to do something because of their disability, I just kept going and I didn't stop. So as you see on these pictures, like going to Washington, D.C. and praying in the rotunda and also getting arrested. But this is something that I've always wanted to do because, I feel like a lot of people with disabilities get pushed back because of our appearance and having IDD and having autism. And what a lot of people don't understand about people with disabilities is that we are very smart and very talented. And we can do anything that we put our minds to as long as we believe in ourselves and we have the right people in our lives to keep pushing us to go out there and share our gifts with the world. So for me, I've always been a very motivating person, as in like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. And that even goes for non-disabled people. Everyone needs a little bit of encouragement in life. But I know for me growing up, it was always, this is not for you, you can't do this. So as I got older, I was like, you think you can tell me I can't do something, but you wait. And as I got older, I was like, I want to spread it all over the world for children, for adults, for anyone that needs that little push and encouragement to be the best that they can be. Because God did not put us here to show what we couldn't do. He put us here to show what we could do and to share our gifts that he gave us.
All right, I'll drop the mic.
Excellent. Let's hear it one more time. I want to touch base a little bit on money, revenue. We're in a unique situation regarding nonprofits. Historically, we've got money coming in from public, coming in from private, and part of the three-legged stool, quite honestly, is services generating your own. One of the things, after you think about it in the context of like capital campaigns, one of the things for operating is trying to get a feel for how you can bridge some of the gaps of building services and things like that. And I've worked with several nonprofits in the Triangle area to think about ways to structure loans where it's not necessarily just handing somebody operating, and it's not necessarily with a capital campaign, but to fill in some key components of what you're trying to do as a nonprofit. We've called this the Community Champions, and it's a starting point of trying to figure out how to bring in different kinds of revenue for nonprofits. So we're announcing that today, and we're going to flesh out the specifics as we go along.
Hi everyone. For those of y'all who don't know me, I'm Lauren Winfrey. I'm Hope's newest employee, and I'm the program manager here. I just wanted to give a quick thank you to our platinum sponsors that really are responsible for making the summit possible today. So thank you so much to Alliance Health and Duke Health. And now I have the honor of welcoming Kenneth Kelty to the stage, who will be introducing our keynote speaker.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. Yes, hello, yes, I am Kenneth Kelty. I am the Disability Advocacy Specialist and peer-to-peer support over at the Carolina Institute for Developmental Disabilities. I am also the podcast host of Exceeding Expectations with Kenneth Kelty. And I have had the honor of having Liz Weintraub, who you'll be hearing from today, on my podcast. I have also been on her show, Tuesdays with Liz, now Disability Policy, which you can hear on YouTube. I first had the pleasure of meeting Liz at the AUCD conference. She is a close friend and idol of mine, so I know her very well. She is an incredible speaker and policy and advocacy specialist at the Association of University Centers on Disabilities. As a fellow podcaster, I love her YouTube and podcast series. I will also be introducing Scott Badhouse. Prior to retiring in 2020, Scott had a professional career of over 45 years, during which time he served as the president and CEO of the United Way of South Carolina, United Way of Palm Beach County, Florida, Great Me and the Fellow Floridian, and Autism Society of America. Scott came out of retirement in 2024. Ready to serve as the senior policy advisor to U.S. Congressman Chris Smith to help spearhead the successful passage of the 2024 reauthorization of the Autism Cares Act. Scott spends his retirement days volunteering for Hope NC, UNC School of Social Work, Feds Forward, and Lincoln Park Community Services. He is the proud grandfather to 3 grandchildren and father to 4 adult children. Scott and his wife Phyllis have been married for 24 years and reside in Chapel Hill, NC. Let's welcome up Liz Weintraub and Scott Badhouse.
Thank you. Just one observation about the morning. I think when Laura has her next performance appraisal, we need to tell her that it took 4 people to replace her. This is a real exciting effort because when we were planning the conference, we thought about who could speak and really talk about advocacy as an individual who's directly impacted by advocacy decisions. And at the end of this, you will agree, hopefully with me, I know you will, that we have the best in Liz. Liz and I have been friends for 10 or 12 years, and I just have been seeing her in advocacy functions, both with her and when I was working with the congressman. So we thought this would be more of an informal discussion. If you have questions, we're going to stop every so often and ask for questions. So just, when I say that, raise your hand. My first and most important question to you as an advocate, have you ever been arrested? No. Okay. Put the mic over.
No.
Could you hear? It's not, maybe not on. Hold on a second.
Hello? Okay. No, and I can tell you a story around that. One of my friends, who's no longer here, lately I've been beginning to think about who's not here, and I don't mean here physically, but here in the world, and hopefully Laura will be back soon, hopefully today, so I can say thank you to her. But I've been thinking about people who's no longer here on this earth, and one of my friends invited my husband and I to a DAP meeting, and I said, do I need to get arrested? I'm scared to get arrested, and I am truly afraid to get arrested. I'm nervous when a police person come and talks to me. I get nervous about that. But she said that not if ADAPT isn't right for everyone. You can be advocates. There's all kinds of ways to do advocacy, and some people like getting arrested. I have a friend. I would call her more like a colleague of mine, who I was with her on a virtual panel just a few weeks ago, who really enjoyed getting arrested. Well, and that's good for her, but that's not how I like to do advocacy.
Thank you. I've never been arrested either. Although once I came close with a cop who gave me a ticket, but other than that, tell me, Liz, from a personal perspective, why do you feel it's important to advocate?
I feel like it's about my life, and I know you're a family member, and that's good, but it's my life, and we need to be speaking up to our Congress people, our both here in Raleigh, as well as DC, and we're the ones who can be we're the ones who need to be vocal. It's my life.
Well, explain that. You can hear me now. Explain, what is it about Liz Weintraub that wants to advocate, well, not only that it benefits you, but it benefits everyone in this room and everyone with disability? What is it about you that motivates you to do that?
What motivates me is that people try to listen to me, people try to understand uh, um, where I'm coming from. Um, a senator once told me I need to be the one who is speaking up, and he listens to me. He might have, when you're a senator, and I know you used to work for a senator, they meet a lot of people, but the people that sticks with them is those stories who have impact. And I think it's so great. Can you share the story about Chris Smith? Why?
Yeah, those of you who don't know Chris Smith, he's a congressman from New Jersey. He's the second longest tenured person in Congress. And he is really the leader in Congress on autism legislation, and also legislation for a lot of other groups with disabilities. And when we were talking yesterday, it reminded me that when Chris Smith got involved with autism, it came from an individual, mom and dad, and the individual had autism. And he always would tell me and others that that was so much more meaningful from him to hear directly from someone who was impacted. In my life is, I have a son with autism and a grandson with autism, but I was listening to, but I would always know that anytime someone like Liz was much more effective than me because it was more meaningful, which I guess is my next question. When you, a lot of times, and myself, is when the professional or the parents go in and talk about autism without an individual who's directly affected. Tell me why that's wrong. Or right, if it's right.
It's wrong because there's a saying that we as a South advocacy movement, and I think Kenneth talks about this saying all the time, nothing about us without me, not about us. And that means if there's an issue that is involving me or any of my friends, I demand, not ask, I demand to be part of that conversation. And yes, it might take me, you might say to me, well, I don't understand appropriation, or I don't understand what legislation means, or I don't understand all kinds of words in Congress. But take the time to explain it to me, and then we can be part of that conversation. I can tell you a personal experience about why nothing about us without us means so much. And this has nothing really to do with legislation, but it has a lot to do with nothing about us without us. When I was in my early 20s, there was a business meeting that my parents called because it was during Thanksgiving, and at Thanksgiving my entire family get together, so they thought it was the perfect time to talk about this issue. And it was an issue, and to this day is still an issue that I don't understand. And it's hard for me to understand it. And but I'm still part of that family. I'm still part of that family. And that you can tell for 20 years later, I'm still very angry about this. I'm getting over it. And
Better watch out, they'll arrest you.
yeah. And so anyway, and to make it worse, my cousin who came over for the holiday, my parents said, "Can you babysit Liz?" So I wouldn't go downstairs to hear what the conversation was about. And that night we went out for dinner, and I was invited out for dinner with the entire family because I'm part of that family. I'm part of the family, but I wasn't able to be at that meeting. And so I saw my sisters as we were getting dressed, and I said, I feel funny. My stomach feels upset that I wasn't at that meeting. And I said, can I know what happened? And my sister said, no, I'm not allowed to tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you because Mom and Dad told me that we're not allowed to say anything. And it took me probably 2 or 3 years to have the courage, and I got help from a doctor to talk to my parents. And that's what nothing about us without us mean to me. It's so important for me. And yes, I don't understand what the conversation is about, but you know what? I want people to help me understand things about IDEA or what the government shutdown is.
So maybe the first takeaway of our discussion today is the importance of any advocacy effort, at least to a legislator or policymaker, is to be inclusive of the person or people who are being directly impacted. Now let me ask you a hard question, being a parent. I would argue I know my son, and my son, anytime I speak about him, he gives me permission to speak about him. Why is that different? Why is it, as a parent or a professional, different? Or is it part of it? Explain that.
I think not everyone wants to be an advocate, and maybe your son doesn't want to be an advocate. And for a long time, I thought to myself, and I tried to help people to say, come on, it's important to speak up. But you know what? It's not right. Some people may never want to be an advocate, and that's perfectly fine. But so therefore, you need to be the one that speaks up. You, and yes, in a respectful manner, you need to help him be part of that virtual meeting with a congressman by saying, can I talk about you? What do you think about this issue? What do you think about, there's a lot of debate on autism right now in the news with the administration. And I hope we're not getting into that today. But then you need to say to your son, how does that make you feel? And then you can say, you know what? This is how it makes my son feel. It how he thinks about this or whatever.
Well, kind of just adding to that discussion, what happens, and you've been in positions like this, I know, where you feel the professional and or the parents are advocating for something that probably is not what the individual wants?
Yeah, that's a hard question because I think that sometimes you need to, the parent, pardon me, my parent, I think parents only want the best for their children. I can't think of a parent who want to place people in an institution or place people in a segregated placement just because they're me. They do it out of love, and I learned that from my book. That they did things out of, but it's their story. I hope I answered your question.
So let me go back to the first time you ever sat down with a legislator or a policymaker, and even though a lot of your work is at the federal level, a lot of it translates to the state level. What did it take for Liz Weintraub to walk in that room and advocate? What were your concerns going in there as far as being effective or having your voice heard?
You mean, was I scared?
Yeah.
I was very scared. I was scared that they wouldn't listen to me. I never went to college, and I say that proudly. I never went to college. I would like to go to college, and there are colleges out there that I would love to have gone to college, but I'm in the process. I'm helping people speak up. Kenneth is an example about that, but so I had to somehow master I have to really think that it's my life, and then just talking to Senator Casey, Senator Congressman Smith, and I hope that Congressman Smith would take the time to listen to me.
Well, I always found when I worked for the congressman and we had groups come in and meet with him, he would take forever if he was talking with a person like yourself.
Yeah.
And he always had something to do when he was talking to someone else. I mean, and he did. I mean, he has schedules. They were scheduled very tightly. But I always watched, and I've seen this in other people, that they listen. They kind of know what the professional is going to say. They have an idea what the parents will say, but when the person talks who's directly impacted by a cut in Medicaid and said, this is going to happen to me. It's not, it's not going to happen to other people. It's going to happen to me. Let me just follow up that question. You talked, when you and I were talking and preparing for this, you talked about your confidence and going into that meeting and your sense like you were scared that you didn't have the confidence. How did you, now when you go in there, it's like, if Liz is coming, oh man, we better stay away kind of thing, because she's going to be right. What got you that confidence built up? What did you need to get that confidence built up to say that this is something I need to do and I'm good at it?
People like yourself who says, good job. Good job. I speak my mind. And then afterward, people say to me, maybe you, maybe my friend Pat, who will say to me, good job. People, and I hope I can call out my friend Anna, who supports Kenneth very well. It's her job to say, nice job, Kenneth, nice job, and that will help Kenneth. That will help me. That will help Joe. That will help whoever to have the confidence in themselves to do it again. One of the things I often say is pulling myself out of bed. You were saying earlier, how did I get the confidence the first time? I needed someone to help me pull myself out of bed and saying, I can do this. I can do that. I can go on Capitol Hill. I can go to Raleigh. It's scary to go to Raleigh. I get that. It's scary to go to Capitol Hill. But you know what? One of my friends, a national leader who's a great leader, will have said that they put their pants on the same way that we put our pants on. They're just people. And yes, they have a fancy title and you have to be polite and all that. But they're just people.
And we talk and talk about who they work for, the congressman and the senator.
They work for us. They work for us. You need to realize that they work for us. And you need to keep them accountable. You need to say to them, you need to say, I voted for you. And I can take you away. I mean, you don't. If I don't vote for you again, you might not lose. You might not win your seat again. And that's why I got so angry this summer about the Medicaid fight. And I don't mean to make this a political issue, but it makes me so angry. Who does the Congress people or the senators listen to? It's not the president, but it's you. You're the voter, and don't ever forget that.
Thank you. Yeah, and so let's talk about, you're going to meet with so-and-so senator on Medicaid. What do you do as an advocate? And I know you don't like the word self-advocate. Why don't you explain that first, why you don't like that word? Because it's so often used.
And I think I'm one of the few people that don't like the word self-advocate, and I'll tell you both sides of the coin because I think it's so important. And it's also in my book.
Which, by the way, we're going to do our sales job right here. Liz has written a book. It's available on Amazon. We'll give you further, but it's phenomenal. So,
thank you. But I realized that self means myself. And yes, I am a self-advocate when I talk to my husband about what I want for dinner. Or I talk to my boss about what I need. On Friday, I had a conversation with her about what I need and what I want in my job. And that's being a self-advocate. When I ordered breakfast, we went out for breakfast this morning, and I advocated for what I want for my breakfast. But when I'm on the hill, or when I'm in Raleigh, or when I'm out, when I'm here, I'm not here just for myself. I'm here for everyone. And I think that's what advocacy is. And also, what if Scott or Anna can be an advocate? Why can't I be an advocate? And I worry the word self-advocate is a better label than the R word, or what I call the H word, which is handicap. Do everyone know what the R word is? Okay. But so it's advocacy isn't just for me. It can be for, and we're all advocates. You're an advocate when you talk to your wife. When I'm sure you.
I never win. So it's not a good example.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think the important thing is that, and I've seen this with my son, is we all advocate.
Yeah.
If it's daily life, it's hundreds of advocacy decisions we make for ourselves. But what I think is unique and wonderful about you is you said, not only do I want to be a self-advocate and make sure that my needs are being met, but I want to be an advocate on behalf of other people because I know what their life is like. I live their life. And that's a lot of people don't do that. And it's not an easy task, as you know. Let me stop here.
Can I also tell the other side? Because
sure, I'm sorry.
It's really important. A lot of my friends will say, I'm a self-advocate. I can think of 2 or 3 people who say, I'm a self-advocate, and I want to be called a self-advocate. And I say, why? You're an advocate. You can also be a self-advocate. And they say that they're afraid that you'll take away my voice. Because you can be an advocate, Anna can be an advocate, whoever. And if I'm also an advocate, you'll take away my voice. And Chris Smith will listen to you over me.
Well, I know I've been in meetings where individuals like yourself were with me, and the senator or congressman would say, shut up, I want to hear from this person. Literally. And it took me a while to realize, I didn't need to, probably best not even be in that meeting because it was more important. Let me ask you, are there questions now? If not, we'll have some more. There's a question right here. I don't have the microphone. Just yell real loud, I guess. Oh, there it is.
Oh, it is on. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. My name's Alex. I'm a social worker. I think one of my biggest points of frustration working with families in the disability community is this idea that you have to have proximity to disability to care about some of these issues. So whether it's our congressmen, our neighbors, our teachers, providers, etc. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, how do we get folks who are maybe not in the disability community or working alongside them to care about these issues and become advocates as well?
Great question, because I think everyone can be an advocate if they want to be an advocate. I think that, yes, personal is always best. Scott and I are personal. He comes from a family perspective or a parent perspective, and I come from a person, or a sibling can be a sibling. But also you can be, just want to be an advocate because you care about that person. As I often like to say, everyone will become disabled once in a while. I learned that very clearly in the later life of my mother, and she had dementia when she died. There were things that I needed to do for her that she did when I was 5 or 6. She had to help me. So we're all going to be disabled once in a while. But I also wanted to talk about siblings. Not everyone has to be a sibling. Not everyone has to be an advocate. I know a lot of the siblings. My supervisor is a wonderful advocate for her sibling, and I know a lot of the people who are siblings. But you know what? My siblings, not for them. They'll advocate for me and Phil, and Phil's my husband. They'll advocate so good for us because they care about us. But you know what? I don't think that they care about anyone else but Phil and I. Maybe that's harsh, but they don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In your discussion about the probably disconnect sometimes between parents, professionals, and the person who's directly impacted. It reminded me of something, maybe you could comment on this. When I was with the Autism Society of America, and I spoke a lot, and one of the discussions in the autism community is how do you describe someone who's autistic? And the professionals tend to say living with autism. And individuals who are autistic, who have autism, say they're autistic. So I decided to go to my expert, my son. And I thought as a professional it was proper to say living with autism. So I said, Evan, when I speak, do you want me to refer to you as autistic or living with autism? And he thought for a few minutes, and in a typical autistic response, he said, I live with you, Dad. and I said, that is perfect. And then he said, I want to be known as Evan. And that told me, that was probably my moment of recognizing how much he got it and how little I got it. And that I was being swayed not by, and nothing, I worked with phenomenal professionals that I love dearly, but it taught me that maybe professionals don't always get it, and maybe even parents don't get it, that if we just ask. Now, that was an important phase, I think, that each parent goes through when they realize that kind of, I got to birth my child to be able to become an advocate, including but it was interesting, when we had breakfast tonight, I didn't think I was advocating for pancakes. I knew my wife was going to get mad at me for eating pancakes, but it's interesting how you and others, including my son, think that decision makings about what you want are advocacy, where in my opinion, that's what I want. I don't see that as, which is, I guess my question now, is why did you think that was advocating for you at breakfast? It was a great breakfast, I should say, but why did you think, do you think that you have to advocate for so much that I don't define as advocacy for me?
Because it's come from my upbringing. I was told to do this. I was told to do that. I was told to wear this shirt. I was told to go to the library. I was told to do this. Can I share the story about what I wanted to do for a living? It's not really to do with well, it does, but not the legislative advocacy. I guess I was 18, the typical age where you would talk to your parents about what you want to do. And I said, my parents said, what do I want? And I'm very, very lucky because not everyone, and maybe you believe that everyone can have a job, but I can tell you that not everyone believes that people with disabilities can have a job in the community. And I said I wanted to be a lobbyist. And as an 18-year-old kid, you probably don't know what a lobbyist is. And to this day, I might not even understand what a lobbyist is. And my parents said, their eyes popped, and they said, no, you should work in the library, because that's what people were told to do. The doctor said all I could do was work in the library. All I could do is work in the flower shop. All I could do is do clean work. But I wanted to be an advocate. I wanted to be a lobbyist. And when I think about a lobbyist is I want to go and advocate for things. And so I did work in the library for 7 years. And you know what? Guess what I'm doing today? I don't have that piece of paper, but you know what? I do go up on Capitol Hill. I do advocate to people about legislation. There's all the ABLE Act that Scott talked about, or that he and the congressman worked on, and we're thankful for that. So I do work in the CARES Act, or the ABLE Act, which is the helping people save money for things. But I don't have that piece of paper, but don't ever tell me that I'm not a lobbyist.
Well, and with all respect to PhD people, my wife's parents were both PhDs. I take you over some of the PhDs who came into my office in times, but let me go into a question now that I know you've done a lot of advocacy efforts in your life and been very successful and you're very respected. What was the one advocacy function that you were most proud of?
Either this can either be one or I'm scared or I'm proud. And you can be both.
Yeah?
I guess two. I'm proud of the fact that I talked to my parents about where I wanted to live. And I didn't want to I didn't want to live at the community that I used to live in New Jersey. I wouldn't call it like a Fern or Willowbrook. But it was a private institution. I was scared to talk to my mom and dad. I was very, very scared because I thought that they would leave me there. You always listen to your parents, and I wonder whether Evan listens. Evan probably, I don't know Evan. I don't think I have ever met Evan. Maybe I have. But I can imagine Evan does whatever you want him to do because he wants to make you proud. And you're the parent. So, and that's how I felt. But you know what? I wasn't happy. And one of my friends, my friend, and supporter like Anna said to me, nothing doing. I will not talk to your mom and dad. I'll help you. I'll support you. And that was the best advice she ever gave me. And the other thing I was proud of is, and hard at the same time, was I spoke in front of Congress in the Kavanaugh case. And has anyone heard about the Kavanaugh case?
Why don't you be more you actually
I
testified.
testified in front of the Supreme Court, and my testimony is in my book. And are you familiar with the case?
This is when Liz was asked to testify at the hearings in front of the Senate Judicial Committee that was going to vote whether or not they should nominate Justice Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, to the Supreme Court, to the Senate, then to the Supreme Court. And Liz was on C-SPAN and ABC and everything. So
the issue was there were two women from Forest Havens in an institution in D.C. which closed in the 70s. And these women wanted an abortion and a cardiac operation. And the staff at the institution said, no, you may not have an operation because it might hurt you, whatever the case. I don't even remember. You could probably go. I think the case is in my book. And anyway, they brought it to the upper court where Judge Kavanaugh was sitting. And Judge Kavanaugh said, no, you do not need to listen to these women because they have MR. And as we know, MR is mental retardation. I say that because not everyone knows what MR is. And my argument when he was nominated by President Trump in his first administration, we dig in this case because we, as any good advocacy organization, and maybe you're at your organization, dig further in positions, and we found this case that no one knew about. And the case was that, and my argument was that if we don't want to turn the clock back, unfortunately for us, he got so when I spoke, all the senators said, nice job, Liz. Mrs. Weintraub, nice. Except a senator from Hawaii said something very, one real question about self-determination. And when the sad day the vote came by the senators, because they voted on a Saturday. Yes, they do work on Saturdays. And I was coming out of a pet shop for my cat, and I cried because he got confirmed, and I'm to this day I'm still nervous that he'll do something
Can I ask you a question?
bad.
And I know there are people probably in this room and around the country that supported his nomination, but why do you a lot of times you go in and you don't get what you want? Why did you feel you were letting down people like yourself?
Yes, I felt like I was letting down people.
So it wasn't only yourself. It wasn't only like, again, not to be political, this person is going to impact me based upon prior decisions he made, but you had the chance to represent millions of people, and they didn't listen.
Yeah, I felt like I was letting down the whole community. When I was testifying, I saw all kinds of people in my head and saying I'm not there just for Liz Weintraub or Kenneth Kelty. I'm there for everyone.
And so then let me ask you that question on that same element, because we talked about this. How much of advocacy is based upon selling the concept of a service? Let's say, this is why Medicaid is needed for me. And this is why if you vote against it, this is what will happen. Versus the politics of all this, where the congressman or senator may say, I agree with you, but the orders from above are to vote no on this. How much of that do you have to play? And then second to that is, how do you deal with that? How do you address that in an advocacy meeting?
Well, that's why you always go with other people. I go with, my favorite buddy is a former colleague of yours who will talk about the numbers and the hard stuff that I can never talk about. Or I can, but she can do much better than I could. But you know what? What I can do is say,
Bring it home.
Christmas, you know why it's really important for Medicaid? So I can live in the community. So my DSP can help me cook. So my DSP can help me get dressed, whatever the case might be.
Okay. So on the contrary, what was the worst, going into the room saying, I'm going to get what I want, and man, did it fail, and why?
I guess the worst part was, I guess that.
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
So in a way, it was.
Yeah. I was letting down people. And when a legislation fails, I said, darn it. When the Competitive Integrated Employment Act failed in last Congress, and it got reintroduced on this Congress, and we're hoping. This Congress is a very, very difficult Congress, and I'm sure you're all aware of. How many of you are following what's going on in D.C.? Okay.
Why is it difficult?
What?
Why do you, and I totally agree, it's very difficult, but why, in your opinion, is it difficult?
Because they're fighting against us. They're fighting to say keep that Medicaid isn't important. Well, it is important, and I just told you why it's important. Why transformative, competitive, Integrated Employment Act is so important. People don't want to get 2 cents an hour for their job. I have done that, and that isn't fun. I can tell you, when I was working in a workshop, I didn't even know how much money I was getting. That's horrible. That's terrible. And you know what? You can barely. We went out for breakfast today, and you can't even go out to breakfast with a friend because you're only making 2 cents an hour. Now, whether I understand how much I get, because money and I don't get on very well. I don't understand about money very well. That's why I get help. And my parents, my sisters are very nice to Phil and I, who we have someone in our life who helps us with our money, and we're very grateful for that. But you know what? I would never be able to go out for a meal if I was working for 2 cents an hour.
Let me ask you a question then. So as an advocate, and let's talk about sub-minimum wage, and again, some people may think it's okay, but how do you advocate? Do you advocate for kind of a transition away from sub-minimal over time? How do you compromise when you know you're going into a meeting and right before you, right after, is some other group coming with the total opposite advocacy position to you? How do you get people together to agree on a common approach? And secondly, when do you decide, okay, I'm not going to get this, but I'm going to get this instead of that? How do you say, okay, it's going to take a couple years. We can't do this overnight.
Yeah, you can't do everything overnight, and no one gets everything. Home community-based services is a perfect example. Not everyone believe in home community-based services. People believe that people with disability need to work in a workshop. Well, believe in me. Believe that I can work. Believe that I can have skills. Believe that I can have a job. Not everyone can work a 40-hour week, and that's perfectly fine. Not everyone can. But they can have a decent wage.
So in those situations, do you sometimes go in on an advocacy function and say, maybe I'm not going to get this, but at least I'm going to educate that policymaker, the legislator, to at least put the idea in his or her head that, hey, how would you like it if your kids were making 2 cents an hour or, whatever. And how do you decide that? You say, listen, we're not going to win on this, but I'm going to at least be heard.
Well, I would do my homework. I would understand the climate on the district or the state. And I know that North Carolina can also be a red published state. Purple means either a red, which is the Republicans. I'm wearing a red jacket, but I'm a Democratic. I do come from and I say that because I do come from a very Republican family that I have to talk about how I feel, how I think that, I listen to them, I listen to the fiscal side, I listen to one side, and I hope that they will listen to my side.
So right before we open up the questions, because we have about 10 minutes left, when you talk to an elected official, and they really help you, they introduce a bill and it gets passed, what's your responsibility back to that elected official?
Thank you. Thank them. And the first thing that you should always do when you go to Senator Tillis, and I think that's your senator here in North Carolina, you need to thank him about what he has done. Thank him about, I saw on your webpage that you have supported the Transformative Competitive Integrated Employment Act, and I think, or the ABLE Act. I know the ABLE Act many years ago. Anyway, you thank him or her, because not one is a woman, a man. Thank him or her and say, and then talk about what you want and what you need in your life, and then help them see that you're a partner. I always leave the meeting and saying, how can I help you? How can I help you?
But do you go and knock on doors at the next election and say, vote for this senator or congressman? Do you do that?
Yes. And you also, Senator Casey is a great example. Senator Casey was a senator in Pennsylvania, and I would argue he was our biggest champion for disability rights. And yes, I don't live in Pennsylvania. I have family who live in Pennsylvania, so I care about the state. But you know what? I don't live. So Senator Casey doesn't really care about me. And yes, I worked for him, but leave the outside. So he doesn't care about me because I can't help him get what he wants. But you know what? My husband, but when and knock on his doors or made phone calls for the person because it was important to the community.
So I do have one question related to this conference. I mean, it's all related, but there's some. When we talk about inclusive housing, because I know that's a big issue, that there's parents and professionals who will argue we don't want inclusive housing, or that's great, but we also have to have this. What is your advice to this group about advocating for inclusive housing when they're asked, well, what happens to the person who is deemed not able to live in inclusive housing?
Watch me.
Say that again?
Watch me. Know that I can do it. Believe in me. Believe that I can do this. Believe in what I can do. And yes, I didn't. I lived in a semicircle. There were probably 10 houses. And you know what? From there, I grew to living where I'm living now, where my neighbors didn't have disabilities. My neighbors sometimes did and sometimes didn't have disability. And you know what? I just need to learn that I can't play my music all the 24 hours a day because you know what? You might get tired. You might need. I need to be considerate of you, and you need to be considerate of me, and believe that I can live in the community.
And then, I think we talked a lot today about advocacy for yourself,
Yeah.
advocacy to elected officials, but there's also, I know one thing I've been doing a lot lately is my career was with the United Way, and I'm kind of very mad at them right now because they're not nationally taking a position on all that's going on. So all of a sudden my advocacy effort is to them, why are you doing this? Universities, they're sitting quiet. So every day there's a new advocacy function. I should admit that I've been totally a failure on both of those issues, but I think the fact is that in today's world, so much is not being, the need to advocate at the state level versus the national level, where so many decisions are being made, particularly here in North Carolina. We tend to forget that. And how people advocate is different. My wife likes to protest. That's advocacy. She's educating people by maybe holding a sign. So there's so many different ways to advocate. And as I think people have seen today, hopefully, I would want you to be my advocate, to be honest with you, because I know what you want. I know when my son advocates, it's better. So are there questions? We have about 5 minutes left. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I was watching you and I was thinking, is she just standing up or is she watching?
No, I can't sit down all day, but you keep talking about breakfast. Where'd you get those pancakes? No, I'm Donna Beckman. I'm kind of in between gigs right now. I've been part of a North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities grant for the last 4 years. That was Meet the Need NC. And that was basically agencies that speak for people with disabilities. And we have this strong momentum that's going on, and we're working on a community-based initiative called Disability Action Network NC. We finally came up with a name, Disability Action Network NC. And that is people with disabilities and their caregivers, myself like a parent, speaking for people with disabilities and their caregivers. Just like you said, nothing about us without us. So I'm wondering if you have any advice, similar to what Alex asked before, people that aren't in our communities. However, we have a lot of people in our communities that aren't here today because they don't need what we need. They're affluent, they have money, they have connections, they're gonna build a house for their child. They can pay privately for direct service providers at a premium rate and get good help. They're not here, and they're not advocating for us. I'm wondering if you have any advice how we can bring them in, because they are influential and we need them at our tables. If you have anything to suggest on that.
I think and thank you for that question, because I think it's so important to help people to know that they have a place at the table. They have a reason. We need money. They have money. They know how to write a check. And if they don't personally know how to write a check or can write a check, they know other people who can help us get, or they don't need to write a check. They can help us or you to understand that living in the community is the best way to live.
Thank you.
I think, if I can say one thing, having worked for a congressman, I found that, bringing in a major donor of theirs, particularly, how do you get to those people? They were effective because that was the money side.
The problem is those people aren't coming to us.
Exactly, and it's hard to find. It's that one board member or one individual, and but I like to be optimistic, to think that people kind of think, for the grace of God, I'm able to take care of my son, but this person isn't, and it's hard. It's hard to fight lobbyists who will disagree with you, and because they represent so much and you're not representing that. I'm sorry, Liz.
Can I just, because I think it relates to parents and families, and I'm talking to a lot of families today. So I was on the board of where we got services from, and in the Jewish community, you don't like to disappoint people, and people put their money and their name to something. And this family wanted they wanted to have a group home or non-inclusive housing, and I was like, and the administration was really against this, and so they came to me and said, well, what do you think? And what should we do? And this family is so important to this work, the organization. And I said, okay. And when this came up, I said, I raised my hand and I said, I don't think my friends and I would like this for A, B, C, D reasons. And I said, and you know what happened the next day? The family backed down and said, we're not going to give the money for what was the word that you just said that wasn't inclusive? Housing, not inclusive housing. And so I have influence.
Liz, fabulous. Thank you for your wisdom. So many parents, have that ultimate question, probably every parent, what's going to happen when I die? And leaving an agency that has more congregate care, that maybe seems to have more security to go to inclusive housing, and then wondering, well, if their son or daughter does not have the skills of advocacy that you have, and we're living in a political environment where there are cutbacks, feeling that inclusive housing doesn't have that safety net of security that the system has, even though it has the possibility for a better life. But this question, who's going to monitor? Who's going to fill in the holes when I die? How many families here have that nightmare? Yeah, I mean, that is reality. How can you help us with this question of balance in going for the inclusive option, perhaps it doesn't have a safety net, and if I die, what in the heck is going to happen? So does that resonate?
Yeah.
Okay, help us.
Hey, Liz, I hate to be that person, but I'm feeling the weight of Laura's clipboard here. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to sum up and reply to Anne.
Okay. I think, and I have 3 wonderful sisters who helps me. They're the trustees of my trust. They are people, and that meeting was about me. That meeting that I just told you about, why I wasn't there, is about me, was about me. And so I would hope that Johnny or Sally has a family member and who cares about that person. And yes, I personally think that an agency doesn't care about me as much as my sisters. And yes, I might not agree all the time about what my sisters think about things.
Right. I think that's really, and that's wonderful that you have that. And not everyone has that. And it's if there's not a family member, or if a family member is living way away.
Just real quick, because I think it's an advocacy function. I think as a society, every one of us who has a child over 18, I think, or whatever, worries about that. What are we doing as a society? How do people know what options are available? How do you work with your family where you're worried about, I don't want to place this responsibility. But I know we're in time, so I want to just, Liz will be around the whole day today. And I want to just, again, mention her book. It's All Means All. It's a great book. Where do you get it?
Amazon, and if you don't like Amazon, because I know some people may not like Amazon, email me, and I have some several copies at home.
And your email is?
lweintraub@aucd.org.
And Amazon, the name of the book is All
Means All, My Life in Advocacy.
It's a great book, and
And
there's
the-
poems in it too that she writes that are beautiful. So
And the reason why I say all means all, and this is just one more minute, I promise. The last line of the Constitution, if people know the Constitution, it says justice for all. Maybe with the Declaration of Independence, I don't remember. But it's on, that's not true, because all means all isn't all means all if we're not included, people with disability. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Scott. It's hard to be Laura. Okay, so logistically, it's break time. We have break from 10:55 to 11:05. There's snacks and refreshments out in the foyer. Please visit the vendor tables too. They'll be here all day, but walk around, mill about, do some networking. The sessions, breakout sessions for the morning start at 11:05. And remember, hard stop at 11:15. We're hoping the Lieutenant Governor is going to be joining us. We want to be respectful of her time. So at 11:15, moderators should finish the sessions, the morning sessions, and we head to the Trillium Ballroom, hopefully to hear from the 12:15. Thank you. To hear from the Lieutenant Governor. Thanks, everybody.